think it was my oldest brother who pointed something out to me some time ago that is really, really significant. And it is that when people try to sell lies, one of the mechanisms that they like to use to do that is to intermingle their falsehoods with truth, with reality, with what's actually there. And I want to talk about, kind of bring that into this idea of the subject of feminism, which is what I'm going to talk about on today's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Wednesday, the 27th of April of 2022, that middle of the week day for those of us that work Monday through Friday. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page. That would be the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there, on kurtzreligionandpolitics.locals.com, on minds.com, MINDS. That would be the Kurt's Religion and Politics group, primarily there. By the way, if you hear my son in the background, you're going to have to forgive him. He's decided making noise right at this moment happens to be a good idea. On Parler, on Gab, on Twitter, or wherever else you happen to be picking me up today. And again, we're going to talk on the subject of feminism. That's what we're going to discuss. I'm going to go ahead and run through my notes as usual. You know, if I had the opportunity to sit at home, even if I had to take my time to clean it and take care of it, and by the way, the kids that were in it, I would, or I could more than just live with that. Excuse me. To be fair, I think everybody needs direction. We need to have meaning in our lives. That said, it's hard to imagine a more rewarding, necessary thing than to take care of the home and the children in it. And if you wanted to have a business of your own, that's not something I see as some sort of problem as a caring parent either. So if a lady who was working at home wanted to have a business of her own and you could find a way to accomplish that, that's great too. Being clear, as big as something like that might get, that business, such a business, it's not an issue in my mind. I get the idea that ladies had an issue with a lot of men who treated them as second-class citizens. I'm not saying that happened as much as I think a lot of people want to count to be true. I think there are a lot of people who are a bit confused about that. That's obviously wrong, and I'm not trying to make a case for that sort of behavior. And I have to say there's no way a society can exist, much less thrive, without the involvement of the women found within it. All of that considered, I want you to understand something. If I could live a life without a 9-to-5, I would happily do so. I've been working literally for years in that direction to try and get myself to that place. My point here is simple. Where women have come a long way in terms of their treatment, certain parts of the, quote, feminist agenda, end of quote, are not just dumb, in my view, they're backward. Maybe some folks like the daily grind, working for someone else constantly under threat of dismissal or abuse. I'm not saying that's always how things work, but I am saying I've had my share of bad experiences with the standard workaday. I'll just tell you that right now. More than a few with people who didn't realize what they had in me and treated me in ways that were not reasonable, I promise. I want to say, too, the idea that it should take two incomes to live happily is a step in the wrong direction, not the correct one in my way of seeing things. The word I would use to describe such a concept is coercion. Do you like being forced to work in order to survive? If not, why on earth would you assume that's what you should want? In my view, there's little more insidious than what I consider the true conspiracy in which businesses and government pressed folks into service who were taking care of an important function prior to that happening. I'm not saying I mind women in the workplace or think it particularly inappropriate for them to be there. It's okay for them to be there. I don't have a problem with that. And I think that, well, I'll get into that. It would be wrong, in my view, to indicate they're unable to do various jobs. There are some, but mostly it's a matter of physical prowess. And that would also be true for a lot of less strongly built males. So I'm not saying that that's really that big a deal. And by the way, some ladies who are more, strongly built and so forth would actually be able to do those jobs in all likelihood. All that said, the suggestion they should be forced into doing what I already don't really want to do myself is heinous in my view. All of this amounts to my viewpoint that where there are parts of feminism that make sense and are reasonable, there are others that plainly, at least as I see things, are right up next to insane. I'll say it again. The fact that women can carry and care for children in ways most guys can't, or are not all that great at for the most part, makes them a literal cornerstone of a strong society, whether they ever make their way into the workforce or not. Take my opinion for what it's worth. But in my view, women and men alike have been sold a bill of goods, and we've bought it hook, line, and sinker. And part of the mechanism to pass it off is feminism. Am I saying it's all bad feminism? Not by any means. I'm just pointing out that one of the standard tools for the delivery of lies is employed in the feminist mantra. Mix obvious truth with what amount to complete or near complete fabrications. That's my 2 cents. That's how I see things. So I think by now you probably have a pretty good idea where I stand on the idea of feminism. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, nothing good came out of feminism. I'm not saying that maybe there weren't, like I say, guys who were treating ladies badly and they shouldn't have been doing it. But I will tell you that I think that there are a bunch of things that got sold, and I just cannot bring myself to agree with those things. So World War II was a time in which ladies were kind of pushed into the workforce because their menfolk were all off to war. Or a lot of them. A lot of them were off to war. So ladies came into the workplace. In my personal opinion, nothing better could have happened than women going back into the home. Not all of them. I don't think they ever were all in the home. Okay? But a lot of them. Why? Because here are people whose job it is not to keep house clean, cook, whatever, but to raise strong, well-educated, you could say, well-brought-up children. And I'm not saying that the men don't have a part in that too, but my point is that the ladies tend to be nurturing and tend to work very hard to make sure that even young men get things that their dads can't give them. Trust me, I know. I'm in that situation. So I'm not sitting here telling you that I see myself as some sort of special person. I have to live in a viewpoint, in a worldview right now that I don't like, where there's not a woman in my household taking care with me of my son, working together with me to do that. I'm going to say this again. You can make all the arguments in the world for the idea that feminism was a completely good thing. I don't care what wave you're talking about. First wave, second wave, third wave, whatever you want to say, fourth wave, fifth wave, ninth wave. I don't care. I believe that there were some things that were sold in the feminist model that have been carried down through feminism, and they're bad. Okay? I'm not sitting here saying, oh, women are weak, or women are horrible, or women are unable to do lots of things that men are able to do. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, as a society, we need women in a very, very, very important position. And you could sit there and say, well, why don't you fulfill that position? Well, because among other things, quite frankly, I can't. I cannot. My mode of thought, my abilities, my strengths, they're not those things. It's not that I'm saying you're weak. It's that, in fact, I'm saying in certain regards, you're well stronger than I am if you can do those things. There are other things that I do better, and that's fine. That's okay. But I'm just telling you, when women are not in a place that's a good place for them to be, which is in the home, making sure that the children are taken care of, particularly when they're young, but I maintain sort of all along the line, that really is a great loss to society as a whole, because those women are tremendous at that job largely. They're really good. I know there are some ladies who say, I'm not good at that or whatever. I get that. I got it. Okay? But for the most part, I believe that women are quite good at that and do things that no or very few men could do like a woman does them. It's just that simple. Okay, I am to that point where I need to call it good for today. This has been the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Wednesday, the 27th of April of 2022. It means tomorrow will be Thursday, the 28th of April of 2022. That would be one step closer to that weekend for a lot of folks who, again, work that 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page. That would be the Kurt's Religion and Politics page on Facebook, on kurtzreligionandpolitics.local.com, on Minds, MINDS.com, primarily the Kurt's Religion and Politics group there, on Parler, on Gab, on Twitter, or wherever else you happen to be viewing or hearing me today. Subject for today has been feminism, and tomorrow we're going to talk about something that got mentioned on Tim Pool's little show by Ian Crossland, and it is Jesus, Roman ruse. And I'm going to address this idea that the Romans, quote, created Jesus with the idea in terms of who they made him to be, almost making him out to be a superhero or whatever you want to say, and really him being essentially God in the flesh. I'm going to address this idea that they actually did that and that they were trying to accomplish certain things by doing that thing. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope everything is going well for you, and hopefully we will see you again on Thursday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This podcast was created on Wednesday, the 27th of April of 2022. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching today's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back tomorrow to check out the next one. Remember, on various platforms, primarily Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub, and the audio podcast, you can subscribe to my content. For the audio podcast, you probably want to use Apple, Google, or Spotify. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. In order to find me on those platforms, you can go to the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub. You can also get to my content on Facebook by finding the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there. Minds, MINDS.com, where you will find me at the Kurt's Religion and Politics group. And kurtzreligionandpolitics.locals.com as well. You can look there. I post my daily video on various social media sites, really only about 3, Parler, Gab, and Twitter at present. I am at KP Schubert on each of them, and you can find me under them, and you can find the videos under me. You should be able to find my podcasts on Google and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's also on podcasts.kpschubert.com. That's podcasts with an S. .kpschubert.com. If you're looking for me on various of the podcast sites, you probably want to search Kurt's Religion and Politics, not the Daily Summation. Keep in mind you can subscribe to my content on various places that I put it. All constructive feedback is welcome. You can like, dislike, add a rumble, or give whatever feedback is available on any of the platforms that you can do such things. You can also add a comment on what I put there. Unless you're advertising or doing something that I believe will harm others, I'll leave your comments out there even if I don't agree with or understand them. I will try to let you know I've seen them when possible and may reply if I feel it's reasonable, appropriate, and possible, of course. Thanks again for viewing this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back again for tomorrow's as well.